And so I saw her all the time. And one weekend I went down to visit her, and I was a teenager. I think I was like 19 or 20, and this is now like 1990 or so, and she wasn't herself. She was like grouchy and irritable and not the fun grandma I knew. And I talked to somebody at her independent living facility and said, "What's wrong? Like, she's not herself." And they said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll fix her." And a lot of people who are younger think it has to just be me. I better have all of this or I'm not going to be successful. We all know somebody. Truly, no one hangs out with people that are completely, without a superpower. Everyone has some kind of a superpower. So if you look, you're really and truly not going to have to look far, but we all think we're alone. It's kind of how we're all built to think, well, nobody's going to know, nobody's going to be able to help me. And then as soon as people open their mouth and they say, "Hey, I'm doing this, do you know anything?" You're going to find within 3 people that there's somebody who's going to either know or know somebody who does. The real cool thing is that one man, he changed the lives of individual students. He changed the lives of a community, and now he's bridging students between, he's going to start bridging the students between Brooklyn and Tanzania, and he's going to be changing the world. One man. And so that's really what the power of mentorship is, that you can make a bigger impact than you could ever even realize.
She's changing the way we think about legacy. Dr. Deborah Heiser joins the Thrive World journey to reveal how mentorship shapes purpose at every age. Hey family, this is the Thrive World journey. Look, life's too short to just get by, and 2025 is the year to persist. We're here to grow, build, and thrive. This podcast is all about powerful stories, real talk, and practical steps to help you level up in every area of your life. Now, if that sounds like something you need, don't just watch, be a part of the journey. Let us know you're here. Do us a favor. If you're listening on the podcast platform, download the episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode. And as we always say, let's make thriving our new norm.
Yeah. Beat up, bullied, and dunked on. Beat up, bullied, and dunked on. Bullied and dunked on. Yeah. Let's get it.
Hey, today we're talking with Dr. Deborah Heiser. She's an applied developmental psychologist, TEDx speaker, author, and the founder of the Mentor Project, where she's helping people tap into the power of mentorship. Her expertise in aging, psychology, and leadership has been featured in the New York Times, Thrive Global, and more. Dr. Heiser is here to share why mentorship is a game changer, how we can continue to grow with and reinvent ourselves at any age, and what entrepreneurs need to thrive in today's world. So let's get right into it. And we talked a little bit earlier, but how are you doing today, Deborah?
I'm doing really well, and I'm really excited to be on your show.
I am excited for you to be here because there's a lot of stuff that we could talk about, especially with our audience and me personally want to know a lot of good stuff about aging. But as we get into it, I said a mouthful in the beginning, right? Applied developmental psychology. What is that?
So most people think of a psychologist as a clinical psychologist, someone who's only focused on pathology, all the bad things that can happen in our lives emotionally. And I look at all of the good things. So just like a developmental psychologist would look at a child walking and talking and learning all of those milestones, I look at everything we can expect through our entire lifespan. And the applied part means I don't just do research, I work with individuals as well.
Okay, that makes sense. So what inspired you to do that?
Well, I loved my grandmother like nobody's business. And she was like the coolest lady ever. And I would go down all the time in the 1980s to visit her. in Florida from New York. There was this really cheap airline called People's Air, and I'd get on that airline and fly down and visit her, and it was like practically free. And so I saw her all the time. And one weekend I went down to visit her, and I was a teenager. I think I was like 19 or 20, and this is now like 1990 or so, and she wasn't herself. She was like grouchy and irritable and not the fun grandma I knew. And I talked to somebody at her independent living facility and said, "What's wrong? Like, she's not herself." And they said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll fix her." And I was like, "What?" And
Right.
so the next time I came back, she was herself. I mean, she was back to being the fun grandma that wore the cute clothes that everybody wanted to be around. And I said to myself, I want to fix grandmas. And so I switched my major in college and, moved from doing what I was doing and decided to pursue psychology. And I really wanted to go into aging. And at that time, it was like the Wild West. There was nobody doing that. And so I pursued it after that, looking for anybody who'd take me in a program that would allow me to look at aging in New York. And so my journey really started from my grandmother. I never looked back. I then started to research anything to do with aging, which at that time was everything no one wanted to have or get. I thought studying aging meant studying depression and studying frailty and Alzheimer's disease and all of those things. And one night I went to a dinner and was like all excited to tell this person, this whole group, all about myself and all the cool work I was doing.
Mhm.
And I told everybody what I did, and the room went flat. Like nobody was like, "Oh, you go, yay!" It was completely the opposite. Somebody
And
said, "Oh, so what do we have to look forward to? Is that it? Is that what our life is?" And it was like I came to a screeching halt, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I have to pivot." And that's when I looked back at the research and found out there's so much that we have to look forward to. It just wasn't making it in the media at the time. And so I pivoted and started to look at what we can look forward to. And so my journey was one of, winding paths, and nothing was a straight line. And it's still moving along the way as I continue in my career.
yeah. Well, first of all, grandparents are the thing. They're the bee's knees. They're they're the
Yes,
best.
they are.
Just as you were talking about your grandmother, it took me back. You know, thinking about my grandmother and just how invested she was in my life and making sure that I had things all the time that would support me in my journey and in my sports and everything like that. And she was a great, great, great woman. And so I could see how that could, shift you and your mindset to doing something that would support grandmothers.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about aging and we're here, just kind of, I have a question about aging and entrepreneurship, and I guess we'll just stick around this for a little bit. Um, how does aging and entrepreneurship intersect, and is there an ideal way to shift when you're like, say, in your 40s from, just say like you want to make a transition in your life,
Yeah.
what can you just kind of expound on that a
Yeah.
little bit?
Well, entrepreneurship, is something that it there's something so amazing about it. We all have questions. Oh, I'd like to see where this goes. I'd like to try this. I think it could work.
Hmm.
And when we're young, we have that real desire to do that because we feel like we have a safety net oftentimes. Like, oh, if I fail, I can go live in mom's basement or something like that,
Right.
that exists. But then there's a big chunk of time when we don't have that. And that's when we might be starting families and we might have, bills that we have to pay and things like that. And then it's harder to do that.
Hmm.
Once we hit, midlife and beyond, that's when you see people really flourish
Hmm.
and they really want to engage in entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
And that's because they've made their nice big fat connection book, their Rolodex. They know who they know. They've accumulated expertise in something. And those questions that we have that start when we're babies, when we're like, why, how, those never go away. So we're always little entrepreneurs. We just have the bandwidth and the money and the expertise and the Rolodex to do it when we're midlife and older. So you'll see people really expanding and trying new things in midlife.
Mhm.
The same way, when we're younger and we're just starting out, we feel like we have a safety net. And that's really an exciting thing. People should say, "Ooh, good. When I hit midlife, if I'm kind of feeling stuck and I'm in my job and I've got to do it,
Mhm.
well, as soon as that burden lightens up a little, you'll be able to go and do all the entrepreneurship you've ever wanted to do."
Yeah. Well, and I'm also looking at um like it's never too late,
Oh no.
right?
Never too late is I remember about a decade ago, I was looking at some of the research, and the top entrepreneurs were people 60 and older. And, that's started to change a little bit. Younger people are getting more in the game, but people who are 60 and older are still amazing entrepreneurs and starting it for this first time. Oftentimes
Mhm.
you'll see somebody getting into the game. It is never too late. And the cool thing is that you'll see now people of all generations working together. It used to be much smaller, it'd be like two young people in a garage working together, or you'd see,
Right.
an older person starting something kind of as a solopreneur. But you see a lot of people that are pairing up because of the tech gap.
Mhm.
So you'll see somebody with tech expertise, but without the big Rolodex, or maybe the expertise in another area, or the funds to start something. So you'll see intergenerational work happening much more frequently now. So it's really, I mean, right now, if you want to go into entrepreneurship, it's a great time to go into it.
Yeah, and entrepreneurship's entrepreneurship is so big now. Like I think when I was in the 90s, right when I was going to college, you know, entrepreneurship was like, go get a restaurant or, it was
Yeah.
just, brick and mortar kind of thing. But then now you have so much around technology and the way that entrepreneurship has expanded. It's really good for the people. I don't know if you believe
Yeah.
in capitalism or not, but on this podcast we do, and we talk about it.
Mhm.
And there's, the midlife, what you were talking about. How can midlife entrepreneurs leverage their experience around just being successful in business?
Look, I'll tell my own story even about it. I had an idea when we were founding the Mentor Project. It was a bunch of us. We were batting around ideas. I knew that mentorship was really an interesting thing and wanted to learn more about it. But
Hmm.
what happens with midlifers is, and what makes it easier, is they tend to come together for around an idea, and they talk about it and they really dissect it, and people will come with their different ideas and give a lot of input. And I had that. There were about 7 of us that were talking at the time. It wasn't just me. And a lot of people who are younger think it has to just be me. I better have all of this or I'm not going to be successful. Well, when we were setting up the mentor project, and this is very common for midlifers entering into an entrepreneurship, is that they'll talk with other people about it. And when we did that, it meant that we were able to get rid of some of the really bad ideas right off the
Hmm.
bat. And there were people that said, here's how you form the LLC. Here's what you do for this. Well, let's talk about this. Oh, you make sure you have insurance. We were covered with all the things that we wouldn't have known to do if it was just me. If it was just me, the thing would have tanked like 5 minutes into it. But because there were a lot of people around giving input that were involved as, founders in the very beginning, that's how it works. So midlifers are good at that. They're good at saying, I'm not going to do it alone. Why should I do it alone?
Right.
And that makes it so that that it does generally work much more quickly and better.
Well, I can attest to that. I was, even though I'm very extroverted, uh, I guess ambivert. I guess I go, introvert, extrovert, whatever. I learned that word this year. Um, I my younger years, I was, very much lone wolf,
Mhm.
and as I'm getting older, first of all, I don't want to do everything. Uh, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, we need to do marketing over here. I mean, maybe I know some knowledge about it. Maybe I did take a class at university about it, but I don't know enough. Let me see if I can hire somebody to do it. And I think just having the experience of life by itself
Yeah.
just leads me into just better choices, so that I don't have to be bogged down by the everyday, day to day kind of things, which helps
Oh, for sure.
entrepreneurship, period.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well, also, I was a few episodes ago. I have a good friend of mine, Tony Powell. She's we were talking about real estate and things like that, but she got a mentor early in her career, when she made a shift. And you talked about Project Mentor, and we might as well just go ahead and talk a little bit about that. Um, First of all, do you believe mentorship is essential for, we're talking to our aspiring entrepreneurs now, for our aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners? And how does one get in contact with mentors for them?
It's essential. It's really not going to work if you don't have one. And I'm going to give you an example of how a lot of the big ideas, if you talk about anything in tech, they've had mentors. If you talk about any entrepreneur, I've never met anybody who's an entrepreneur that didn't have mentors, but most of them are lateral mentors. And this is a type of mentorship that most people disregard. They don't realize that it's mentorship. They don't know it's there. And then they don't engage in it as much as they should or could. So basically, if you want to think back to, say, I'll give you an example. There's this guy, Steve, and he is at work and he is given a task by his boss. Now, this is a startup. He's
Hmm.
given a task by his boss. Do this thing. We need it done in 3 weeks. Hurry it up. Can you do it? Steve
Hmm.
says, sure. He couldn't, but he didn't tell his boss he couldn't because he wanted to
Hmm.
keep his job.
Right.
Like, how many of us have ever been there?
Got to save
So
face.
he's doing as much as he can. And the boss is coming in every day and he's like, Steve, where's the work? Come on. Can you do it? Our whole company is hinging on this. So Steve says, okay, I've gotten as far as I can. So he calls his friend Steve. He goes, Steve, I have a problem. I have gotten as far as I can. I don't know the same kind of engineering you do. Can you walk me through this and teach me what you know? Steve says, sure, buddy, I'll come over after work. He goes over to his work, and at night he helps him. And the next morning, the boss comes in and he says, wow, I can't believe all this work you got done. And Steve said, I told you I had it.
Hmm.
And then it was like Rumpelstiltskin at night. Steve would come in and help Steve. And they got the work done in 2 weeks instead of 3. Even though it was an impossibly short amount of time, they got it done like a week early. And the boss was like, what a miracle. No one knew Steve was coming in at night and helping.
Hmm.
Steve was just like, yeah, I told you I had it. I knew it all along. So this worked. It happened for this startup. And the mentor was Steve Wozniak, who was coming into Steve Jobs' job at Atari. The boss was Al Alcorn, who's known as the grandfather of video games. And the project they were working on was Breakout, the first video game for Atari. So that would have never happened if that lateral mentor, Steve Wozniak, who was not Steve Jobs' boss, he was his friend. He was like, my friend needs my help. I'm going to go help him. That's how entrepreneurs work. They call in people they know and say, oh my gosh, can you help me? It's critical. And who doesn't say yes?
Hmm.
Most everyone says, yes, I want to help this person I know.
Hmm.
Those are our mentors.
Hmm.
They're lateral mentors. I could give you 100 examples of how this looks in entrepreneurship and in tech.
Hmm.
And what happens is we all have like a little virtual Rolodex all around us of all the people that we know. And when we're stumped with something, it's innate in us. We reach
Hmm.
out to somebody to help us.
Hmm.
And we as people like to help our friends and other
Yeah.
people that we know. We don't charge them. We don't say, give me an award or give me a title. So nobody ever says, that's my mentor. But a mentor is someone who is is innately wanting to give back without any real recognition or award or money or things like that. They feel meaningfully connected to the person. They trust them and they have some kind of a goal. This is how mentorship works. And we always think of it as hierarchical. But everyone out there who wants to form some kind of a company and start out as an entrepreneur should really and truly look to their left and to their right, because there's somebody there who's going to be able to tell them something that's going to shorten their journey to get where they want to go, or who's going to add some little sparkle to it and make it actually better than it was.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you were telling a story and you mentioned Steve, then you mentioned Steve. I was like, wait a minute, is that the same person?
I did that on purpose because if I say the name, people tune out and they're like, la, 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 I already know
Right.
all about Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak.
Right. Well, when you had said it, I was like, Steve, was Steve the... But I was really into the story. So, but I got it. But I got it, when you finally said Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. That's so funny. So when for any aspiring entrepreneur, any entrepreneur that's even in their field already, but they may need some kind of support, is what you're saying is just look around you, look, to somebody that's really in your friend group. That may have that kind of information that will help you shorten your journey.
We all know somebody. Truly, no one hangs out with people that are completely without a superpower. Everyone has some kind of a superpower. So if you look, you're really and truly not going to have to look far, but we all think we're alone. It's kind of how we're all built to think, well, nobody's going to know, nobody's going to be able to help me. And then as soon as people open their mouth and they say, hey, I'm doing this, do you know anything? You're going to find within 3 people that there's somebody who's going to either know or know somebody who does.
What do you say to the people that are scared to find or speak up or look for a mentor?
I would say to them, don't put the pressure on it. Most people think you have to go to somebody and say, hey, do you want to be my mentor? And that's weird. So yeah, you should be afraid of that. That's like walking up to somebody and saying, hey, you want to be my friend? Someone's going to be like, you're a weirdo. So we think of it in that way that makes us feel scared to do that. But no one is scared to say, can I have some advice? Do you mind? Can I pick your brain for a minute? That feels normal. And that is normal. And who doesn't like to say, wow, they think I'm an expert? It makes everybody feel good. So if you just approach things in that way, that fear will dissipate really quickly.
Yeah. What do you say about entrepreneurs and business owners being mentors themselves to maybe people that are in their organization?
Oh, it happens all the time. I mean, just like I was talking about with Steve and Steve Wozniak didn't know he was a mentor. He was a friend to his friend, right? So we often think that that's what we are. Oh, that's my colleague. Or, oh, that's somebody that I know at work. I'm just helping somebody out. So I would guarantee you that you are a mentor and you just didn't realize it, because I'm sure that you have helped somebody out along the way. And within companies, we're all lateral mentoring all the time. I'll give you an example. If you are a doctor, it doesn't look very good for you to say, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing in this surgery coming up in an hour. That's not going to work out well for you.
This is not going to work out.
And that's a very hierarchical environment. If you go to a hospital, there's a lot of hierarchy. Everybody goes by title and, the outfits that they wear and who's wearing the stethoscope over their, white jacket. So how do you take that away? Well, what you do is you bring in lateral mentoring. That's where they have, a curbside consult. And somebody says, hey, what did you do when you had that case that, you were dealing with that knee replacement or whatever it was? And that isn't you divulging a vulnerability that you have. That's you saying, I would like to hear how you do things. So what I always say is that for entrepreneurs, you have been a mentor to somebody who has asked you a question like that. And you should also keep on asking those questions and being a mentee. We should look at mentorship as constant and continuous. And engage with as many people as possible. It's an information exchange, it's a knowledge transfer. And if you think of it that way, you're just going to really be much better at it, and much more tuned in to looking at people and saying, oh, I see they could use my help. I will offer some. I'll say, hey, I know about this. Can I give you a hand? Or you will say, can I ask advice? It'll just get you plugged in much, much more quickly.
Yeah, as you're explaining, I, I have a friend who is a very smart person, but there's a lot of things that they don't know about business, right? And I don't know about their business. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm not the person for them to go to. How do you how does one in like just get engaged with a mentor and keep engagement with that mentor? I'm thinking about myself, right? Like I might feel like I know it all, but I'll be scared to go to a person that may know more than me in a
Mhm.
certain field. But how do I stay engaged with the person, especially if they're busy and things like that?
That's another thing. People think that it's like an arranged marriage for life. So that's very intimidating. Like, I better
Hmm.
be engaged with this mentor or mentee forever.
Hmm.
And you don't have to. So I'll give you an example. Like, I was finishing graduate school and we had to do an externship. And what an externship is you have to go and do work for free for somebody. And what you're hoping for is that they'll give you an amazing recommendation and all of that stuff. So
Right.
you want to go in there and wow these people, and you've
Hmm.
never done anything. So you're like completely new to everything. So I was sitting at my externship and it was like the olden days. So the cell phones cost like $10 if somebody called you on it back then.
Back, yeah.
And so my fellow classmate called me and I was like, oh my gosh, someone's calling on my cell phone. This must be important. And she's like whisper talking. She's like, hey, can you tell me how to do Kappa statistics? I know you know them, and I wasn't listening, and I don't know them, and I have this thing I have to do, and they're going to find out I'm a fraud and whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'll walk you through it. So I sat there and walked her through it. I was done. That was
Hmm.
it. I mentored her in that moment. That was lateral mentoring. She needed one thing. The goal was get her through that minute, teach her this thing. That was a knowledge transfer from me to her. She holds that knowledge. It never went away. And she finished her project and boom, out she goes. Now, we remained friends and whatever, but that was all she needed. We often think that mentorship has to be a continuous knowledge transfer for the rest of our lives with this person. And that's a burden on somebody who
Yeah.
thinks of themselves as a mentor. I was done. I did my job. I was like, ooh, look at me. And do you know, I asked her 7 million times to do that for me.
Hmm.
But it was, you can do something when you're mentoring. You can say, my goal has been reached. So if you know what that goal is, it could be, I need the lay of the land for this. I'm starting a company. What does the landscape of this area look like? I know that you know this. Can you tell me? We're good to go now. Thank you.
Hmm.
Goal is reached. It doesn't have to be now come along and continue. That makes both people feel awkward.
Hmm.
So you could have that mentor that stays with you for decades, and that goal is an ever changing goal. As you reach one, you get another. But most of our mentors are one offs, two offs, or they come in and out as we need them.
Hmm.
And that power can be that's the person that makes something happen for them and their career goes all the way in a new direction, or it could be that somebody is just doing something that is important at that moment.
Hmm.
So mentorship, again, does not have to be an arranged marriage for life.
Mentorship for a season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mentorship for a minute.
For not even a whole season.
Yeah.
You talked about you used the word fraud, and the thought came to me was imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
How does an aspiring entrepreneur, whoever, really get rid of that mental thought or mental barrier that they're an imposter? in what they do?
People struggle with imposter syndrome all the time. I've been around a few Nobel Prize winners who felt like imposter syndrome in different places. When we're in a new place, we feel like the imposter, like I'm around all these experts. There's nobody who's an expert in literally everything. So when
Mm.
you step into something new, which every entrepreneur is doing, this is something new to me, you're going to feel like, uh-oh, I'm in a new area, and that can give you that imposter syndrome. The best thing around that is align yourself with and get the advice from somebody who you think is that expert, because that's going to alleviate your imposter syndrome.
Here on the Thrival Journey, we talk a lot about not just surviving, but thriving. And a big part of that for me has been understanding my health on a deeper level. That's why I partnered with Live Good and brought it under my company, Orion's Health. Not just because I believe in the products, but because I've seen what they can do firsthand. I've walked through some hard health chapters in my life, including cancer and a kidney transplant. And I know what it feels like when your body's working against you. That's why we're offering 2 free tools that help me and can help you too. First, go to myfreehealthreport.com/Orion's Health. Take our quick health questionnaire and get a personalized report created by Dr. Ryan Goodkin, Live Good's Director of Product Development. It's clear, actionable, and totally free. Second, visit myfreedetox.com and get a free chlorophyll and zeolite detox bottle with your first product order. It's a gentle, natural way to clear out toxins and start fresh, something I personally use and stand behind. This isn't just a sponsorship, it's part of my mission through Orion's Health to help people thrive in body, mind, and spirit. Of course, always consult your physician before starting any new supplement or health regimen. Your body is unique, and your healthcare provider should always be part of the conversation. The links are in the show notes. Now tap in and take your next step toward thriving. Right. Getting around like-minded people, you would say?
Yeah. Or different minded. Because, when I was thinking about the mentor project, I didn't want somebody who thought like me. I thought I was a total imposter stepping in this new field.
Okay.
I didn't want to align myself with another imposter.
Right, right.
I wanted to go to
You're
the
an
people that
imposter
knew what they
too.
were doing.
Yeah, yeah. You talked about the mentor project. What is the mentor project, and can you share like a story, a success story from the mentor project?
Sure. So it really started organically. I was looking at, when I was making that pivot from looking at everything bad that we don't want to have or get when we get older. One of the life stages that I was looking at that is something we look forward to is this life stage called generativity. It's in midlife, and it's where we're built to want to give back. We want to help others. We want to, we care for others without expecting anything in return. And we do this through mentoring, volunteering, and philanthropy. And I was curious about mentorship because it's giving a piece of us to somebody else. Whereas, you could volunteer and be a docent at the zoo, but that may not be a piece of you necessarily. And not all of us can put our name on a building. So I was like, everyone can be a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I was talking about it with people and asking, I was curious about the mentors, like what drives people to want to give back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to, everybody across the board. And one of the people that I was talking to said, I really have a hard time finding mentees. And then another person said, I have a hard time finding mentees. These are people that did world changing things,
Mm-hmm.
like one of the fathers of the firewall. People were saying, I feel irrelevant. I don't feel validated unless I'm able to give back a piece of myself to someone who wants my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? Are you kidding? These people that people would pay tons of money to meet with can't find a mentee? So then, people were saying, I'm retiring. I'm not going to be around others. So when we started the mentor project, it was really to get some of these people in front of kids, to give back for free. So we just started it and we thought nothing was going to come of it. It was going to be like a really fun hobby to get people in front of kids and make a difference. For me, it was like an anthropological expedition.
Okay.
And so when we started it, it was like 7 of us. And then People said nobody else who's really a high level individual is going to volunteer to be a mentor. They're too busy, they're too important. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
within 6 months, we went from 10 to 60, then to 80, then to
Mm-hmm.
100, with people saying, I need to mentor. I want to mentor. I want to do it. Wow, they're doing that. I want to do that too. And then we had to put up a waiting list because there were so many high, like top 1% in their fields. Like we have an astronaut, we have 7-time Nobel
Wow.
laureate nominee. We have artists that are well known, writers that are well known anyway. So with the Mentor Project now, we're in year 5. We were able to give out $3 million of mentoring hours for free. And we have one mentor who lives in California. His name is Justin Thompson. And he was like, I want to teach art to kids that have not been exposed to art. Well, a person who from Reach Sharati, you should really look into this organization, Reach Sharati. She called and said, we have a school of 500 kids in a rural area of Tanzania called Sharati, and they would like to learn, they would like mentorship. So we sent Justin to Tanzania to teach these kids cartooning. He's the guy that can draw Snoopy, and he does these murals around the world, and he's trademarked through them because he works for Schultz Creative Studios. So here's this guy. He goes there and he teaches these kids for, a week.
Mm.
And it went so well. It was amazing. And he came back that he went the following year.
Wow.
And then from there, he taught the teachers and the other people, and the whole community came out in both cases. They were so intrigued. He drew a gigantic mural on the side of the school, and the whole, moms were holding babies, and dads were like helping with the scaffolding and stuff like that.
That's
Well,
cool.
then he went to Flatbush, Brooklyn, just this past January and worked with middle schoolers there. So he was, and same thing, the kids loved it. So the real cool thing is that one man, he changed the lives of individual
Yeah.
students. He changed the lives of a community. And now he's bridging students between, he's going to start bridging the students between Brooklyn and Tanzania. And he's going to be changing the world. One man. And so that's really what the power of mentorship is, that you can make a bigger impact than you could ever even realize. And that's just one of the many, many, many stories that we have of our mentors who do phenomenal work to change communities
Yeah.
just in a short amount of time and for free.
And for free. And I was hearing that, and I'm like, man, that's powerful. Um, one man being able to change lives and connect lives from continents.
Yeah.
And I think that's really special, especially when you're a young person and you don't necessarily know your world outside of your world.
Yeah.
And just for that gap to be connected is pretty powerful. It's
Yeah,
pretty
it
good.
really is. We've been able to see that with other mentees who have started companies with us, who've patented with us, like kids, like who just, you don't know what you don't know until somebody shows you what you don't know. And
Right.
that's really what I think is the most exciting. Just like I didn't know that what a psychologist was, and then I said I'm going to be a grandma fixer. And then when we look at these kids who were like just like kind of, they weren't lost, they're curious. But how do you know if you live in an area and there aren't astronauts or there aren't artists or there aren't, you don't get exposed to people everywhere depending on where you live. Like it doesn't matter where you live, people tend to congregate. Like you have Silicon Valley in California. If you're not in California, you're not going to be around those guys.
Mm-hmm.
This allows you to learn from people, the Mentor Project, by going into panel talks or to having just the opportunity to say, I want to just talk with somebody one-on-one to get to know what they do. And that's what students can do. And we also get them in front of their classes, our mentors, so that kids can say, oh, I could do that in the future, or I
Mm-hmm.
could start that now. That's really the power of it, because
Yeah.
I did not think about how powerful it was when that woman said, we're going to fix your grandma. And they did. And because that changed my trajectory. And now I know that as soon as we allow kids to learn what they don't know, their whole life trajectory opens up and shifts and changes because they see they can do it and I could too.
Yeah.
That's when we see that kids will take a whole new life path.
When we're talking about, a younger generation, and this is the digital age, so to speak, how does mentorship fit into the digital age, or do you see it growing or changing?
Unbelievable growth. You're mentoring right now. Your podcast is reaching people. And if a person is meaningfully connected to you and they have a goal of learning something from you and they trust what you're saying, you've just mentored. I don't know how many listeners you have, but the people that especially come back and they listen over and over, you're a modern mentor. This
Mhm.
did not exist pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, we were all on, Skype and nobody met up with people. So now we see that AI is coming around and we're seeing people that are having, sort of virtual bots of people that can answer questions. They've had that for a little while with the Holocaust, people who've survived it and they answer questions that looks like a real person. And now we're seeing other professionals coming into the same um, space and they're answering questions that a person can ask that person, mentorship questions, and they're able to answer it. So our modern mentoring is opening up. Do I know what it'll look like in 10 years? No, but I have a feeling that what you're doing is going to be compounded. So the reach that you would have had without podcasting would have been limited.
Yeah.
Radio is a local community. But now, unless that was pre-serious radio, where you could reach larger groups. But now podcasting, it's limitless.
Hmm.
If you're on YouTube or you go on any social media platform, it could be millions.
Yeah.
And that's one person that can do that. So we're able to connect people globally, in a matter of minutes, which, we couldn't have accomplished in our lifetime before.
Which I think is really powerful because, when I look at like the behind the scenes stuff that we have to look at with analytics and, where our podcast goes, I'm amazed. Like, Russia, so to speak, um, other areas, in the Asian areas. And it's like, wow, like people are
Mhm.
actually listening to us in these different countries. And what they get from the knowledge that's shared on here can be, be exponential. We
Yeah.
don't necessarily know.
And
Yeah.
we now have translating devices because of technology, so that if you are speaking in English and someone does not speak English, but they have the ability to turn on like a Google Translate or something,
Hmm.
we can now, it doesn't matter. You can
Hmm.
speak in whatever language you want, and somebody's going to be able to get that translated into the language that they are most comfortable with.
Yeah.
And so that makes the world that much smaller and our reach that much greater.
Yeah. Which I think is dynamic.
Yeah.
Um, I know. So this episode is really talking about entrepreneurship and how does or entrepreneurship and mentorship and how does entrepreneurs find mentors. But I think all in all, like just in life, having a mentor to help guide you, especially when we're talking about younger generation, it's a powerful person to have in your life. You
Mhm.
know, um, What's a great story that you could tell about you and your personal mentorship? I'm just curious.
Of who I've mentored or who's
Yeah.
mentored me.
Or either way. Yeah.
I have so many mentors, and I just talked about my grandma. Grandpas are important too.
Yeah, they are.
And
They
my
are.
very first mentor that I really know was a mentor who he sits right here, like he's right here.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was the oldest grandchild and I lived in Des Moines, Iowa. And my grandfather would take me every Saturday driving through town to do his errands with him. And he drove this gigantic car and I'd sit in the front seat and he would tell me stories about people that we would pass. So he'd say, "Oh, you see Mary over there? She's had a hard life. You should have seen her kids, though. She put them through college. She works so hard, you'd never know it. Oh, see that guy over there? His wife just chewed him out for not bringing in the dry cleaning." And, all of this stuff. And I was like,
Mhm.
wow, he knows everybody. I don't think he knew anybody. He was just telling me. But the point of this is week after week, he would say to me, you never know a person's story.
Mhm.
Every single person has a story. So what he was doing was telling me the story of everybody that we passed. And I, from that moment, have never ever met a person that I didn't want to know their story.
Mhm.
And that to me was super powerful because it changed how I looked at people. You can look at somebody as scary or off-putting, or somebody that, that guy that had the grimace. When he said it was because his wife chewed him out, I thought,
Mhm.
well, of course he's going to look like that. That made me look at life and people differently. That was a
Mhm.
mentor that mentorship lasted with me forever.
Mhm.
In terms of me being, and I have a ton of different mentors throughout my life, who are still with me. Like my first boss, 40 years later, we're still friends.
Mhm.
I count her as a friend more than a mentor now, but she changed how I looked at teaching. I was working with children with severe disabilities. And she said, you have to find something in each child that you can resonate with, that you say, I want to see something in this person that connects you.
Mhm.
And so whereas most people would walk in and they'd say that this group of kids, there's no hope with them, getting a child to drink from a straw, what felt like the biggest accomplishment for us and for the child, or getting something that seemed very small to somebody else was monumental. And I still have pictures of the kids. I still remember every little bit about them. And that's what she taught me, was how to look at people and connect and find something of value between the two of us that would be meaningful. And in terms of me mentoring others, I think that the biggest thing I could say, and I don't always know when I'm mentoring, is that I have been pretty consistent in terms of, if a person like my fellow classmate asks me for something, I am going to help them.
Yeah.
So I will reach out and help them. And one example that I have right now is there's a young woman, her name is Dina, and she lives in Kenya. I've never met her in person, but I've been mentoring her for a couple of years now. And she was looking for, how can she get involved and do things? And she calls from a crappy Wi-Fi phone that's like not working great. It
Mhm.
cuts out all the time. But she started TMP Kenya there, and now has a whole lot of college students who come to her, and she's the leader now, and she's mentoring others in how they can get mentorship and leading an
Wow.
entire group of people. So she's changing her entire community in Kenya, and now doing a lot of what we're trying to do. Here, I've never met her, but we meet all the time. She's now going to start writing about it and blogging about it. And to me, it feels like I'm forever connected with her. There's a
Yeah.
piece of the two of us living in each other now, and that will never go away. You can't sever that cord. You can't take that away. When she wins, every time she grows, I feel like a little piece of me is living there with her and growing with
Mhm.
her. And
Mhm.
that's powerful to me.
That is very powerful. Like mentorship by itself, just as you were describing it and sharing your stories, like it's a piece of you that continues to live on, you
Yeah.
know, and you never really know how that piece of you that's now living in somebody else affects someone else.
Hmm.
And so just by just the exponential ripple
Yeah,
effect, you're really, you know, changing the life of other people without you even knowing it. And
exactly.
so how does someone get in connection or involved with the project?
Well, if you are a student, kindergarten through graduate school, and you want to receive mentorship for free, you click the Become a Mentor button, Become a Mentee button on our website, www.mentorproject.org, and you will get through and get a mentor. If you're a minor, someone who's under 18, you will need to get your guardian to sign as well, because we have paperwork. All of our mentors go through background checks and are vetted by several people and have to do a whole onboarding system. So we do ask that our mentees also fill out onboarding information as well. So we're really very strict about that, but it's free. If you are someone who says, "Ooh, I'd love to donate or support the mentor project, or I want to volunteer, I want to become a mentor," um, click our contact us button and let us know, and then we'll get in touch with you. But or go to our donate page, whatever you'd like. But that's a way to become generative with us, and we're really excited to meet new people and get involved with more people.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful stance that you take. And when we first talk about, having you on and talking about, just having you on, I was like, mentorship, yeah, being a mentor, but it gets so much more deeper than the basic understanding of, oh, okay, you could be a mentor. There's so much depth into the
Yeah,
connection of what a mentor relationship could be and is. And I think that's just a powerful thing.
it is. And I think everyone who, if they listen and realizes that they're a mentor in some capacity, it's the most fulfilling thing that you can feel, is knowing that you have made a difference and that you live on in somebody else.
Mm, yeah, it is. What would you say as advice? What would be your piece of advice to entrepreneurs about mentorship? And let me rephrase that. What's your one piece of advice that you can give to entrepreneurs about being mentorships in the world?
I would say look to your left and look to your right. You're looking at a mentor or a mentee. Everyone is a mentor or a mentee at any given moment. And if you incorporate the idea of mentorship at the very beginning, when you're starting out, it's going to help you because you will be seeking the advice of others. You're not going to be the solo person running out, making mistakes left and right. Somebody's going to check you here and there. And you'll also end up having a much more fulfilling journey with the project that you're working on, because doing things alone is a lonely existence, and
It is.
entrepreneurs often feel like cats. They're off doing their thing all by themselves, and that's lonely. Why be lonely? Go out and connect with others. Make mentorship a part of your foundation. It does not limit your organization. It's only going to make it grow exponentially faster with much more impact.
Yeah,
So look left, look right.
man. Um, that's it right there. And just a characteristic. Are there characteristics of what makes a good mentor?
I tell this to people. There's no good mentor and there's no bad mentor. There's just, you're a mentor or you're not. So I'm going to
Okay,
go
yeah,
through I'm
black
going to
and
go
white.
through it a little, cuz it's not like you say, "Yeah, I've got this friend, they throw me under the bus every week," and that's not your friend. Like, run away from that person. So that would be, you would say that's a bad friend. I would say that's not a friend, right? So
Mhm.
mentorship is the same way. So people will say, "Oh, you need to be an inspiring mentor." No, like, do you ever say, "I'm going to go look for an inspiring friend"? We have to think of mentorship not as a job and burden that somebody is carrying, that, "Oh my gosh, I better pull this person up out of the trenches." That's not the relationship. It has to be that the two people, there has to be someone who says, "I want to give something to you."
Mhm,
And then you have to want what I'm giving. If you
mhm.
don't want what I'm giving, that's not mentorship. I'm not going to try to be more inspiring and give you more, make you want what I have.
Right.
It's like giving a gift at the holidays and somebody opens it up and they go, you know, that's not a gift then,
Yeah.
to that person. So they have to have that. Then it has to be an intrinsically motivated relationship. If you are paid, you are not a mentor. Period. End of story. People try to tell me all the time, "Oh no, but I'm a coach and a mentor." No, you're not. You're a coach. Would you do it for no money? No. Okay, then you're a coach.
You're a
You're not a
coach.
mentor. You don't pay your friends, do you? This is, where we have to think of mentorship as somebody has to be intrinsically motivated to do it at both ends. So a mentee also can't be like, well, I'm doing it because somebody's going to say, oh, they have a mentor. I'm going to give them a good performance eval or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to have a meaningful connection. You have to like the person. If you do not like your mentor, if you do not respect your mentee, you are not a mentor. You are not a mentee. That relationship just isn't mentorship. It's something else. If you also need trust. So if I think you're going to run, I'm an entrepreneur and I say, I'm afraid that that person is going to run off with my idea. That's not mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to freely give to that person because I'm going to think they're going to steal my idea. Likewise, if I say I don't trust that if I tell this person what I don't know, they're going to judge me in some way. It's just not mentorship. And finally, there has to be a goal. If you're just chit chatting, then you're a friend. So you need all of these. A person should never think they have to go and tap dance to be a better mentor. They should not have to think they have to be inspirational. If you say, oh, I've got a toxic mentor, that's not your mentor. That's some toxic individual. You're not being mentored by them.
Right.
So we have to remove those sort of value things that we put on mentorship and think of it more the way that we think of friendship. Does everyone who passes in front of you become your friend? No. Does that make them a bad person? No, they're just not your person. The
Right.
same with mentorship. It has to be the right fit. Otherwise, what's unique in mentoring? What's unique about anybody?
Yeah. I thought you were going to keep going because I was
Oh,
loving
sorry.
what you're saying.
Yeah, I saw you. I saw you sort of shift, and I was like, all right, I'll stop.
No. Go ahead. Keep going.
I was just going to say that the value judgments that I hear from most people, and a lot of people will say the 10 top ways to be a good mentor. And I think to myself, no, nobody does that with, any other relationship that we have.
Yeah.
If you know how to be in a relationship with someone, every one of us does. That's all you have to think of. It'll feel natural. It's organic.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give it more thought than it needs to have.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not feeling that vibe with that person, just say, oh, I guess we were mentoring. Now we're not. It's run its course.
That's
Is
it.
that a failure? No, that is not a failure.
Yeah.
That is just not mentoring. You
Right.
can be friends at that moment. You can be an acquaintance. You can hate the person, whatever you want, but don't make mentorship be something that feels like a burden.
Yeah. That's exactly what just came in my head. Like it doesn't have to be a burden. So like you creating the distinction between mentorship and friend, mentorship and coach is very powerful. And thank you for creating the distinction between that. Uh, as your last words on the podcast, what is it that's on your heart that you want to share?
I really hope that people will engage in mentorship because a more connected world, I'm starting to see that the world is getting so much more connected because of our tech advances.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're able to connect with more people, I see only goodness coming from this because when you're meaningfully connected with someone, that is not usually for diabolical purposes. It's because we're making the world a better place. So, my goal is to hopefully get as many people as possible connected in meaningful ways so that we can make some really good change. And entrepreneurship is a key part of that. So, I also hope people will check out my book, The Mentorship Edge, and learn all those distinctions that we talked about.
Yes. And we'll have like your information circulating with our information and the description and everything. And I think that people will check it out because of everything that you shared. You shared your heart, you shared your stories, you shared your education and everything that you've been through. So I want to say thank you for just being a light in this world, with connecting and bridging people from across the world to each other and really connecting with people's hearts and souls that will again exponentially connect with other people and other people and other people. It's a great work that you're doing and I wholeheartedly appreciate it. So thank you so much for doing that.
And thank you. And I want to say thank you for being a modern mentor and touching the lives of so many. The impact you're making is exponential and you probably don't even know a tenth of what you're doing. So thank you for doing what you do.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna take that label on as modern mentor. So thank you. So Deborah, thank you for being on the podcast. And anyone who's watching, everybody who's watching and listening to the podcast, we'll put our information, Dr. Deborah Heiser's information in our description. So make sure that you go get the book, connect with her, and just become a mentor in the world. And if you need to be menteed, find your mentor in the world. And just connect with us on the Thrival Journey on Facebook, Instagram. You know how to get in connection with us. And as we always say about this time, make thriving your new normal. Thank you, Dr. Deborah Heiser. Appreciate you. Before you go, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Thrival Journey. Every time you show up here, you're choosing growth, clarity, and the deeper work of becoming who you're meant to be in this world. And if you're ready to reconnect with what truly lights you up, I created something powerful that can help you. It's called the Empowered Path, 7 days to reclaim your purpose and passion. It's a beautifully designed, guided workbook that walks you through a week of powerful prompts, clarity building tools, and real mindset shifts. Now, you can get instant access to it today. It's a small investment for a huge return. Your energy, your clarity, your alignment. And if you want to take it deeper, check this out. I'm offering a limited number of free 30-minute purpose coaching sessions. No pressure, no pitch, just space for you to reconnect with your direction, your gifts, and what's next. So you can grab the guide and book your session at the link in the show notes. Let's not just go through the motions. Let's really walk this path on purpose. I appreciate you. And like we always say, let's make thriving our new normal. And I'll talk to you soon.